Well, what's up again there, guys? Brian here at 3TR. Welcome to another episode of my weekly Q&A show, Talented People's Questions, episode 204. We got a much larger episode this time around, and I believe we actually got maybe one or two newbies for this particular episode. So jumping right into them, I'm going to start off with a good friend of mine going by the name of Your Uncle Jay, and you want to know what made me want to do YouTube. Well, going back about 4 years, what made me want to do YouTube was the belief that perhaps exposing myself online more would help kind of encourage my personality and make me a little bit more outgoing. There was actually a particular YouTuber who I had been watching for a good year or so, and I was just absolutely impressed of just how much life she brought out of others, and I kind of wanted to take some of that influence and put it into my own. And really, it was really that one person who kind of inspired the channel. In fact, in a secret sense, the name 3TR is actually it kind of involves this particular person in a very personal sense. When I told them that, when I actually got a chance to see them last, they were actually kind of happy about that. So yeah, really it was just to kind of build up my self-confidence and build up my social skills with you guys, which I think I've done that in the past 4 years. Your next question is, who is my favorite Sith? Oh, I guess it would have to be Emperor Palpatine. Simply because he was the most powerful Sith of all time. He still is. I like how he isn't really stupid. If you actually look at the novelization of his character, which some people actually thought he was a bit of a cartoon character, if you saw Revenge of the Sith, he actually is very much like that. He likes to do all this chuckling and laughing. He's actually like that by himself. But I like how, even though he kind of can act like a bit of a joke in a cartoon character time, this guy is very calculating and he isn't stupid. There were like plenty of moments where, you know, Vader was kind of plotting against him and Palpatine knew this, and he was kind of like, you know, you're just kind of following the rule of two. I kind of expected this. And so although Palpatine is definitely, you know, underestimates a lot of people, he isn't stupid. I just think that the way he went out was a little bit pathetic. I would have given him a much better death had I been writing the character. And the last question is, what game am I looking forward to the most in 2016? Well, that's easy. I'm looking forward to Final Fantasy 15. We've been waiting for this game for what feels like 10 years. This is the game that most of us wanted. Nobody wanted to play 13. Nobody wanted a sequel to that piece of shit game. And hopefully this will undoubtedly might be my last playthrough in the franchise. I mean, apart from any games they will be remastering or remaking between 1 and 15, but after 15, I will be done with Final Fantasy. I've been with the franchise since 1997, and I just want to leave the franchise on a positive note. Going on to the next 3 questions from my good friend here, and he wants to know, what is the best Call of Duty in my opinion? Well, that's easy. My all-time favorite Call of Duty game of all time is Call of Duty World at War, without question. Why? Because it was the last time we actually got a good amount of time in World War II. And I'm sorry about the jets, but I know that my camera here is very, very sensitive to sound. I just think that World War II is really the last meaningful war we ever fought. And it's the fact that they're very, very simple. As we move forward with Call of Duty games, it's all about technology. And it's not just, I would just prefer a Call of Duty game, just keep it basic. Don't be over-saturated with all this AI control and system control. It's quite simple. The Nazis and the Japanese want to take over the world. You're playing as the Russians and the United States, and you want to stop them. Keep it simple. That's all I ask for my Call of Duty games. But no, Activision and all the other departments, they want to try to make it much more enriched. And what they're doing is just muddling continuity and making things confusing. And it's gotten to the point where all these games now look alike. I can't even tell them apart anymore. So there's absolutely no diversity in these Call of Duty games anymore. So that is why World at War is my favorite Call of Duty game of all time. Going into your next question, what is my favorite PlayStation exclusive game? That is very, very difficult, because when you say PlayStation exclusive, you really are going back nearly about 4 generations. It could be anything between PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 4. And for someone like me, that is a pretty impossible game to pick, because I can name my favorite game amongst all PlayStation generations. But if I were to compare them against each other, I'm not sure if I can come up with an answer, because between when they came out and now, some of them have been released on other consoles, so they're not really PlayStation exclusive games anymore. So I guess my answer to your question is I don't really have an answer to that, because I just have too many to pick from. And next question is, what is the rarest game in my PlayStation 3 collection? I'm not sure about rarest, but a game that I really like, that I don't see too many people talk about, is the Saboteur. Now, the Saboteur is an open-world sandbox game in which you play as a member of the French Resistance, pretty much fighting off Nazis and trying to kick them out of Paris. I absolutely love anything that revolves around World War II, and this just kind of adds to that, my love for it. So, but I don't see anyone really talking about it, and I think it's a very underrated game. Probably one of the most underrated games that I own, so I would say that it would be close to being rare. The next question comes from Drafen G, and you want to know, what is the worst and most interesting fan theory about a movie, TV show, or video game that I've ever heard? Fan theory. I guess the theory... Fan theory. I don't know. Maybe the most recent one I've heard is some people think that Rey from Star Wars is a reincarnated Anakin Skywalker, which sounds ridiculous. So I guess that's the only theory I can think off the top of my head that I've actually spent a good amount of time thinking about, just for my sake. So I guess that would be it. The next few questions come from Phil the Darkest March, and you want to know, do I think they should show another light weapon in Star Wars, like a light whip or light axe? Yeah, sure. Oh, there are tons of different type of lightsaber weapons. You got lightsaber staffs. You've got like a bunch of different weapons. Yeah, sure. Add more diversity in the weapons. Show that lightsaber energy can be applied to other things than just regular swords. So yeah, I would love to see that. Next question: Charmander, Bulbasaur, or Squirtle? Well, I just started a new Pokemon game in Emerald, so I think it kind of depends on if you want your game to be harder at the start or if you want it to be harder later. Because if you pick Charmander, you're not going to do very well against the first two gym leaders, being Brock and Misty, because fire really isn't very great against rock, and Misty's going to completely blow your Charmander if you evolve to a Charmeleon out of the water. So it kind of encourages you to get other Pokemon. If you pick Squirtle or Bulbasaur, you definitely can get through Brock, and definitely get through Misty, but with Squirtle, you're going to have a lot of problems with Lieutenant Surge because he has electric types, but at that time, you'll definitely have enough time to get some rock Pokemon, which will give you an advantage. So I guess I'd go with Charmander. It starts off hard at first, but once you get past Misty with them, and there's definitely a lot of Pokemon that you can get, especially if you're playing Red and you get a Pikachu, then you're set. So yeah, I guess I would pick Charmander. I need someone who can fly. It gives him more ability. All the other Pokemon, Bulbasaur and Bulbasaur and Squirtle, even in their advanced forms of Venusaur and Blastoise, they're not really as effective later on into the game. There are definitely some gym leaders that can neutralize them, especially when you get to the much higher gym leaders. So I'll go with Charmander. And the last question is Dante in Devil May Cry 4 versus Dante from Dante's Inferno. Who would win? I don't really know. They are both very diverse characters. They're both very highly skilled, very high trained, very tough. They've both been through hell and back. I think Dante's sickle weapon has a little bit more functions than Dante's Rebellion, but Dante can use his Devil Trigger. But then again, that's nothing that Dante from Dante's Inferno hasn't encountered before. But if I had to pick, I think I really think that Dante from Dante's Inferno could take down Dante. Simply because he's taken on much more tougher things. I mean, this is the guy who was able to take on the devil himself. And though Dante from Devil May Cry certainly has battled his fair share of powerful demons, I don't think he's ever actually encountered the devil himself and taking him down. So if you can do that and go through the 9 circles of hell, that's something that not even Dante has done. I think he would have a lot of difficulty with. So I think Dante from Dante's Inferno could potentially take down Dante. It would be a very hard-fought match, but I think he could pull it off. The next question comes from Nick the Ninja, and you want to know, what is my favorite fictional, barring sci-fi weapons? So, okay, this obviously is a playoff from your last question. I guess the Blade of Chaos. It's a very multi-range weapon. It's upgradable, and it works on gods, so I can't think of a better weapon I would want that's not a sci-fi sword. The next question comes from Fading Sister 406, and you want to know, what is the weirdest, strangest movie / game / book or comic I've ever watched, played, or read? Weird. I'm gonna have to say Final Fantasy 13. Yes, that is without question the worst video game I will ever play in my life. But it's the fact that in those 70 hours, all I could do was just question what the heck I was playing, what was I watching, how is this happening, who wrote this. It was so all over the place. I didn't quite understand what was going on here, because this was not a Final Fantasy game. It was like a game made from people who hated Final Fantasy and intentionally wanted to destroy everything that the franchise had started and created over 20 years. And that's why it was without question one of the most shocking experiences I've ever had in my life, and think ever will have in the course of my life. So I would pick that. The next set of questions come from That Knife Sniper, and you want to know, what 2 games would I mix together to make an HBO show? If I could mix 2 video games, I guess I would want to mix Mass Effect and probably LA Noire. I would love a story that kind of involves a police team and you having to take certain members on certain cases and to solve mysteries. I absolutely love mysteries like Sherlock Holmes, and I absolutely like the dynamic that you have in Mass Effect, but I'd like to take it down to a much more grounded level, a much more realistic level. You have most cop stories and they only focus on 1 or 2 members, but what if you could have a whole team that have special functions in certain cases? I think that would make for a really great HBO show. Something like True Detective, except much more interesting and much more diverse characters. Next question is, why didn't Lucasfilms just rewrite a villain from the expanded universe? Why did they have Kylo Ren? I have absolutely no idea. I think they just want to do it just to make a clean slate. And I guess you don't want to have contradicting ideas. So if you take a character from the EU and you throw him into the movie, well, obviously it would be a new continuity, because obviously this character can't do the things that they did in the books. So to avoid that, we're just going to make our own character that's not in the EU and just establish him. So I think that was the main reason why they did that. I don't agree with that. I mean, there are definitely a number of villains. Darth Krayt, anyone. That would be great villains for a Star Wars movie, but I guess that's just not the direction that they want to go. The next question comes from Statico Scarpino, and you want to know, who are my top 2 favorite Batman actors? Oh, that's easy. It's obviously going to be Michael Keaton and Christian Bale. I believe maybe by the end of this year that might change. Maybe I'll throw Ben Affleck in there. But as it stands right now, it will be those 2. Next question is, what did I think of Dante from Devil May Cry 2? I thought he was okay, but he just didn't have the same personality that we're used to. He wasn't quite the talkative and eccentric type. He was definitely, I think that it was the most older version of him, so I guess you could say he was much more mature, but it definitely took away from the energy that we're used to him. I mean, he had his funny moments with the coin and all, but he just wasn't quite as energetic as he was in the previous, in all the other games that we've had of him. And the last question comes from Lance Sparta, and I believe this is the one confirmed newbie for this channel. And you want to know, could I do a Dante versus DMC Dante matchup? Believe it or not, I actually have a matchup plan involving DMC Dante, which I will be putting up against Bayonetta. Not sure when I'll get that one up. Hopefully I'll be able to get it out sometime this year, but that's definitely a matchup I want to do. And in terms of who would win between these 2, obviously the original Dante would win in every single way. I mean, come on, he's a lot cooler anyway. And with that, those are all the questions you guys sent for this particular episode. I'd like to thank all of you guys for making this episode possible. If you guys have any more questions you'd like me to answer in next week's episode, be sure to type them in the comments down below, but make sure you get them into me before next week, before I start filming this. And like always, Thank you guys for watching. You're awesome, and I will see you next time.